Have you ever reached the end of the day and thought, why does everything feel so heavy lately? And you're not just physically tired, but emotionally exhausted in a way that's even harder to explain. Like even small things suddenly feel overwhelming. And maybe the hardest part is that from the outside, probably still looks like you're handling everything pretty good, but internally you feel drained. If you've been feeling that way lately, you are absolutely not alone. I'm Michelle, and I help midlife women reconnect with themselves again through small, gentle steps that feel supportive instead of overwhelming. And in this video, I want to talk about why midlife can start to feel so emotionally exhausting for so many women. Because honestly, I think there's usually much more underneath it than people realize. So many women reach this stage of life carrying years, sometimes even decades, of emotional responsibility. You have become the one everyone depends on, the one who remembers everything for everyone, the special dates, the assignments, the games, the practices. You handle everything. You support everyone in your world. And after a while, your nervous system, it almost stops recognizing rest as normal. You get so used to functioning in this constant responsibility mode that exhaustion starts to feel like your baseline. That's your baseline. Makes it even harder is that so many of us are still functioning while we're emotionally exhausted, right? Just keep going. You just keep plugging along. You're still showing up. You're still helping everyone. You're still managing life, yours and everybody else's. But inside, you feel like you don't have much left to give. And honestly, that kind of exhaustion can feel very lonely because more often than not, it's invisible to everyone else. And when you think about that emotional exhaustion in midlife, I don't think it's always a one huge thing. For so many of us, it's an accumulation of decades of constantly carrying responsibility. Even something as simple as deciding what to make for dinner can suddenly feel exhausting. Am I right? I can remember recently thinking, good Lord, I've been deciding what people are going to eat for dinner for 35 years. It's exhausting. And not because the dinner itself is such a huge deal, but because it represents the years and years being the one mentally carrying all the thing all the time. The planning, your day, their day, the food plan, remembering who's got to go where at what time and what day, deciding, the decisions, right? That need to be daily, the anticipating of everyone else's needs. And after a while, even small decisions can start to feel heavy. Sometimes I'll even notice in little things like deciding which road to take somewhere I've driven 100 times before. And I'll catch myself thinking, why does this even suddenly feel so mentally exhausting? And honestly, part of what starts happening is that we've spent so many years disconnected from ourselves and constantly overriding our own needs that our nervous system stops feeling rested. Everything starts to feel like one more thing to carry because constantly carrying emotional responsibility for years, it eventually catches up with us. And many women, by the time we've reached midlife, we realize we spent so much time taking care of everyone else that we didn't even support ourselves. We don't know what support for you feels like anymore. And if you've been feeling emotionally exhausted lately, I created my self-care journaling blueprint as a gentle way to start reconnecting with yourself again without high pressure, without overwhelm. I'll leave it linked below for you in the description. And honestly, maybe the first step right now isn't trying to completely fix everything. Maybe it is simply allowing yourself to acknowledge how much you've been carrying. Don't minimize. Don't try to push through it. Just notice it honestly. Maybe write it down because slowly reconnecting with yourself again, including yourself again, creating more internal support for yourself really can bring this softening of some of the exhaustion over time and lighten that mental load. And once you start realizing how emotionally exhausted you've become, the next natural question becomes how to start feeling like myself again. And that's what I want to talk about next week in the next video in this series. So be sure to come back next week or hit subscribe so you don't miss any of our conversation. And if this conversation resonated with you, I would love to hear from you in the comments. What's one way that you can acknowledge how much you've been carrying on yourself? And remember, you belong on your own list again. Return to yourself one small stride at a time. And I'll see you next week.